Tibetan women realized that our independence was at stake. So they gathered together in the streets of Lhasa. They rose up against China's invasion. They rose up to protect our culture, our beliefs, our values, our freedom. Not only were they in the streets, but they were urging the Nepalese, the Indians, the Bhutanese to help protect our country. These women faced unimaginable torture from the Chinese regime. Their heads were shaved off. They were made to stand in front of their graves while they were shot one by one. Throughout their torture, these women did not bow down to China because they knew who they were. They were Tibetan women, women of truth. And these women had a vision of freedom. And 54 years later, this vision of freedom is still beating in the hearts and the minds of the Tibetan people today, inside Tibet and outside Tibet. Right now in Beijing, China, China is handpicking their new leaders. They are rubber stamping Xi Jinping's new presidency behind closed doors. Xi Jinping wants to portray to the world that this leadership is free, democratic and modern. But this is far from the truth because they remain a totalitarian regime. Xi Jinping's presidency, Xi Jinping as a president, cannot be admired by the world and should not be taken seriously because he is a dictator. When 107 self-immolations are happening inside Tibet right now, that's 107 Tibetan lives from the age of 17, young teenagers who've never experienced freedom. Mothers, nuns, monks, lay people, the older generation are setting their bodies on fire for freedom. And Xi Jinping, under his leadership, 44 Tibetans had self-immolated. And under his leadership, his answer to their Tibetan people's grievances was to blame the shift, to shift the blame on the Tibetans, to imprison the families and friends of the self-immolators. This is China's leadership. This is dictatorship. So we cannot take these people seriously. It is now time for change in Tibet. World governments must join together and initiate a multilateral forum for Tibet. Because it is not enough, simply not enough, that individual governments make public statements condemning China. It's simply not enough, these statements of condemnation. We need them to team up and make an effort for Tibet. And this can be done. This can be done because world governments have done this. For example, world governments have united for Kosovo. And look where Kosovo are today. They're free and independent. So it's possible. And just last December, the US government had made a statement saying that they can work together with European nations. And they stated the European countries. They stated UK, Poland, Germany, Czech Republic, and Switzerland. They can work with these countries, they said. So this is a sign that we've got to be aware of, that the world governments are listening to our demands. And therefore we have to act on those demands. And we need to urge these governments to take the next steps for Tibet. It's possible. When Tibetans inside Tibet are resisting at all levels of protest, when they are during the Lhasa, during the boycott, language rights, protests going on the streets, self-immolations. We in exile, we Tibetans and supporters must amplify our actions for Tibet. Tibetans inside Tibet are demanding change. They deserve change. Our independence, our freedom is inevitable. Tibet will be free. His Holiness will return to Tibet. Per Gelo.